Guys, welcome to the Friday morning Menefee Agency Base Shop call. Glad you're all here. Hope you all had a great week. And we've got a sunny day here in Missouri for once. The first time we've had one, I think, in 6 months. So I'm happy about that. So let's start out with leaderboards. Everybody put together a pretty solid week this week. March has been a little bit of a challenge for us. And looking back over the numbers in past years, March is kind of one of those tricky months. And so if you're not where you wanted to be this month, keep pushing hard. We've got another week left of turn in. So next week is a 5-week turn in. We'll have one more week of turn in. So you have plenty of opportunity to get numbers in and qualify for promotions. So, like I said, it is not at all uncommon looking back at the numbers. March has been a little bit of a funky week, but you guys still put together solid production. So, starting out, number 7, John Gilliam had 2 applications for $576. We had Donna Bates with 1 application, $1,139. Mr. John Paul Vetter had 2 applications, $2,361. We had, hang on a second, I'm looking at my numbers here. Okay. I had to make a change here. Brett Applin had 3 applications, $2,896, and he had one that he couldn't get opt to cooperate and get uploaded for him last night. So that we had to manually enter that one. So anyway, that also kind of threw him a little bit out of order. Spencer Kushian had 3 applications, $2,563. Diane Newman. Diane is a new writer with us, so congratulations, number 1, on being a new writer, but number 2, congratulations on being number 2 for the week in writers. 2 applications, $3,096, and Diane is a part of the Kushian team, so congratulations. And 2 applications. We always say if you can write 1, you can write 2. If you can write 2, you've got a business. Well, you've already written 2 apps this week, so I guess you officially have a business. All you got to do is just keep writing more. So great job, Diane. Number 1 writer for the week, Mr. Kevin Brosda had 2 applications, $5,570, part of the John Paul Vetter organization. And congratulations. This is only, I believe, Mr. Kevin's 2nd week in the field. And I'm not even sure if that's full 2 weeks or not, but he's got top of the leaderboards this week. And so congratulations on that and being a new writer and putting up some significant business. So, guys, wanted to start out the call this morning. Actually, hit a couple announcements real quick. We do have, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that here briefly, but again, conference coming up April 16th and 17th. So do keep an eye out on updates on that. Regarding that, you definitely want to get your hotel bookings and any other tickets done as quickly as possible. That is the hotel block, and you may have to contact the Symmetry events email, and there's instructions on how to do that on SMG Live. But that discount block, I think they extended it one more time, but I know that's going to be running out here pretty quick. So do get that, do get those bookings done. I guarantee you the rate we've got at the Gaylord is the cheapest one in the area. I looked around, and it is by far the best rate. If you need to room with someone, kind of cost share, let me know. I know of other agency owners who have been posting on our agency owners group me, and have people who are wanting to share rooms. So do reach out to me if you need to spread the cost out a little bit. So we also have coming up in June, and we'll post this up on GroupMe, but we've got our leaders retreat. Basically, anybody who is a team leader or above can qualify for that event. That is being put on by Scott Mink. Scott, our regional agency director, he's been in the business 35 years now, just a wealth of knowledge. Jacob Pogue is going to be there, one of the top in the entire Symmetry company. mean, it's going to be a great opportunity. So with team leader and above, team leader just means you have at least 2 agents on your team with you. And so do take advantage of that. It's going to be an opportunity, guys, for some real one-on-one intensive agency building training. And there's going to be just a phenomenal amount of content there. So take advantage of that. Moving on, getting past the announcements. One of the things I wanted to touch on this morning, as far as starting out our training for the morning, is I've noticed a lot of questions coming up. We've got a lot of folks brand new in the business, getting started, maybe still kind of getting their feet wet a little bit. And, you know, the question comes up, okay, well, how do I know what products are right in what situation? And so, and that's a variable. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of factors that go into that. That's one reason why, you know, we have the virtual mentor program. But one of the things that I want to make sure that people understand, and leaders pay very close attention on this, is something we really need to be training on, helping your people as they get ramped up. But virtual mentor is nothing more than a robot. In other words, you're going to input information. Virtual mentor is going to sort through all the stuff that we have, and it's going to bring up recommendations. One of the things that I think is a little bit of a misunderstanding is the idea that those recommendations are necessarily ranked, you know, from number 1 down to 3. You know, it's going to bring up 3 recommendations, but those are not ranked in any particular order. It's just, again, the robot says, hey, this client's going to qualify for this set of products. Okay. So, and that causes a little bit of confusion, because sometimes I think people see that and they think, well, okay, well, this is the top one listed, so that's obviously going to be the best one. So we wanted to do a little bit of training on that this morning. Also, when you do that, you pull up those products in Virtual Mentor. If you haven't noticed before, you've got that list of 3, but if you look in the bottom right corner, you will have a little tab, tab that you can hit on, and it will actually drop down an additional menu with a bunch of other products. Okay, so there's actually a lot of times, especially if you have a healthy client, there's many different options that they qualify for. Okay, so what we want to share is kind of, you know, again, a good rule of thumb when you're planning your appointments. You know, what's the best recommendation? And again, this is not a hard and fast rule. So, you know, take every case individually and look at it and make sure that you're doing right by the client. Always consult with your mentor, your upline who brought you into the business. Always call the carriers, do a risk assessment. But as you're pulling those products up, you know, kind of a general rule of thumb is if they're young and they're healthy, more times than not, we're going to be going with the term option. You know, term insurance, again, those where you are green and brand new, you know, it's going to be that insurance that's the most cost effective right now. It's in force for a term or period of time. So that's the name term insurance. You know, it's kind of a temporary insurance, if you will. Typically 20, 30-year plans are what we sell for mortgage protection. But, you know, anybody under age 40 is probably most of the time going to go with the term option. And we could talk about advanced markets. There are some things that we can do there to help them, you know, maybe get into a permanent product with some cash accumulation. But let's just talk strictly mortgage protection, not getting too fancy with it, you know, especially for those who are just starting out in the business. Term is going to be a good option. 40 plus, 40 to 50, still probably going to be a term product, although you will start to see some of your selections change a little bit. You know, some of the things that come up with Virtual Mentor. Also, when we get 40 plus, you know, that's where obviously we start seeing people taking more medications. That's going to affect what you're going to be able to, you know, to offer them. Really, the magic numbers, when we hit 50, you're kind of going into a gray area, meaning a lot of those people can still qualify for term coverage. Depending on how big of their mortgage is, though, you're going to have to start looking at some what we call critical period options, meaning putting a plan together that maybe doesn't pay off the mortgage, but rather either reduces the mortgage or makes payments for a period of time. And again, that 50 to 60 bracket, that's kind of a no man's land, if you will. That's where rates really start climbing for people. And so you're still going to have some good term options there, but you're going to see the prices go up dramatically over, somebody's in their 20s and 30s, even in their 40s. And so sometimes, again, depending on size of mortgage, depending on their health, you may need to start looking at a critical period option. And we could still use term for that, but a lot of times with critical period, we start moving over into the whole life plans. Whole life being those plans that go on indefinitely. And once the client takes out that application, once they get approved, as long as they keep paying on that month after month, year after year, it will stay with them as long as they keep it paid up. So really, so again, 50 to 60 is going to be kind of gray area, but you could still find some good term options. But do keep in the back of your mind, you may be forced into a critical period, depending on their circumstances, either financially or with their health. Guys, when we hit 60, now here's where it gets tricky. 60 and above, and again, leaders, this is something you really want to have a conversation with your people on, because I see some people kind of stepping off of some danger zones here a little bit, because 60 and above, yeah, there's still some term plans that we can write, but there's a couple of things that happen. Number one, 60 and above is almost guaranteed they're going to be having more medications, probably more health history, and therefore going to be a little bit more difficult to get them approved on a lot of our term plans. Now, we still got some great options. We've got some term plans that are kind of designed to take in some of those factors from health. But then we come back to the conversation about cost. And again, 60 plus, now your rates on those products are going to be going up dramatically. And so that's really where it makes the most sense to really start having that conversation about critical period. In that conversation, a lot of times sitting with those clients is, if one of, a lot of times the question goes to the wife, if your husband were to die, do you want to keep this house? And a high percentage of the time, I would say 80+% of the time is going to be, well, no, I'd probably sell it and downsize or move in with family, or, it's too big of a property to take care of, too many memories, whatever the reason being. But that is a perfect scenario for a critical period setup, meaning we don't need to pay off that house. We just need to make payments for a period of time for that family or for that spouse to be able to get the house ready to sell and save their equity in the property, and give them time to kind of go through, not only the process of selling a house, but if you think about it, we really got to put ourselves in our client's shoes, and we really have to project out what that circumstance is going to be like as they're going through that, because they've just lost a loved one. They're now trying to make some pretty heavy decisions financially. One of those decisions may be selling their house. I want you to understand what the power of critical period is, because a lot of times people say, well, that's not a lot of coverage, or that's only going to make mortgage payments. But yeah, if you've ever talked to somebody who's been in that circumstance, especially if they lose a spouse suddenly, through a massive heart attack or an accident, and it's just a sudden death that wasn't expected. Emotionally, mentally, there's so much going on outside of the finances that it's just hard for them to process everything that's going on. So our critical period plans and how we set that up helps make those payments. That puts that mortgage on autopilot. And I would use that a lot of times when I was selling a critical period and talking to people, is like, this puts your mortgage on autopilot. You don't have to think about it now. And whether that be 6 months, 12 months, a couple of years, anything that we can put in place to take that load off of them as they're going through that period of time is going to be huge. Okay. So it's very important that, again, once you get 60 plus, guys, my default setting is to go to critical period. Can we get term on them? Yes. And if I get a situation where they're just adamant they need more coverage and it makes sense, and the health is there, that I feel like they've got a chance to qualify, okay, we'll take a look at it and see what we can get done. But you're getting really into shaky ground when you're trying to write term insurance and anybody 60 plus. And the same thing goes, to carry that conversation on further, anybody 70 plus. I can think back over my career, I maybe have written a couple, maybe 3 term policies on some of these 70 plus, and then they were they were somebody that was so squeaky clean healthy. They looked like they were 50, even though they were 70. They needed the additional insurance because they had absolutely nothing else, and they had a lot of debt. I mean, there was a very narrow set of circumstances where that made sense. So, again, kind of want to walk through this process with you this morning because, like I said, a couple things that I'm seeing. Number one, a lot of questions coming from folks who are getting brand new started, and that's very understandable because you said you're trying to sort out. You see that virtual mentor says, well, hey, they do qualify for this term plan, but does that make the most sense? Well, that's why we're having this conversation, number one. And then number two, I have seen some apps come through where it's like, I'm not sure this one's going to pass. It's kind of going to be iffy if that one's going to get through. And one of the things that you want to do, for the client, obviously, is number one, get them approved, get them taken care of. But then number two, protect your business. You spend time going out there, sitting down with that client, meeting with them, setting up these plans. And if you don't set up the right plan to start with, you gotta go back and do it all over again. And that's just extra time, extra cost on you and your business. So we don't want you to have to go do double the work just to get the same amount of coverage in place. Okay, guys? So that's kind of what I wanted to share with you this morning. Just a quick training on product placement, how to put that in place. Moving on, wanted to talk a little bit about kind of more on a high level, what it takes to be successful in this business. I'm actually scheduled to be on a call this afternoon with the Nolan Agency and share with them some thoughts, from my time in the business. And one of the things that has been on my mind a lot, here in the last couple of weeks for some reason, is the concept of the Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule, meaning 20% of the people do 80% of the production or 80% of the work, or and again, that's kind of broad based. That's across the spectrum, not just in our organization, but in all organizations. And the thing about that, and as I was thinking about that, number one, I think 80-20 is outdated. Unfortunately, I think in today's society, it's probably more like a 90-10, or maybe even a 95-5. There's getting smaller and smaller group of people who are going out and making things happen and putting up production. But the sad thing about that is, and what that statement I just made proves, is that people can move from one group to the other. Like if we take the 80-20, there's no reason that some people from the 80 can't go join the 20. Can people from the 20 go join the 80? Yeah, probably. That's not going to happen, most likely, because they figured out how to do it and how to win. And they keep doing those same habits and those same processes over and over again. But what's kind of got my my thought process going is what does it take to get from the 80% who don't do but 20% of the work? How can we move some of those people over to the 20? And the answer is we can. I mean, it has to be a decision for somebody who's in that position to move themselves from the 80 to the 20. But I think the good news is that can happen. You can make a decision. If you're on this call and you identify yourself and you take a hard look at your life and you realize that you're part of that 80%, you can easily move to the 20. And if you're in the 20, you can move to the top of the 20. That's the beautiful thing about that concept is you don't have to stay where you're at. And I think the reason why we have this divide of 80-20 is because a lot of the people in the 80% just don't know how to do it. We've got a society where, there's just a lot of negativity out there, whether it be societal negativity, family, just the way that we go through schooling. Our school system is not designed to raise up champions. It's designed to teach to the average. What's your GPA, grade point average? What's your average? And the idea of everything that we go through in life is to get you to average, not to get you to excel. But the only difference between those who are average and those who excel are those who take steps to move themselves from average and above. You know, I had a meeting, and I have a meeting once a month with a friend of mine who is actually a high-level manager with State Farm Insurance. It's kind of funny. It's always good to sit down and talk with him, you know, because he's in a different system and they're a different structure altogether. But he faces the same challenges that I face in trying to find people who are going to win at a high level and helping people, again, move from that 80% to 20. And he shared a story with me. He went to school in Oklahoma and was very familiar with their football program. And it was interesting. He was talking about there was two different coaches that kind of coached back to back. You know, one coach left, and the other coach came in, but they had two different approaches in the recruiting. One approach was they would bring the recruits in. They would take them around the campus. They would show them the impressive football field, all shiny and pristine. They would go into the weight room, you know, all clean, everything stacked perfectly. They would show them the trophy case, everything glittering and shining. You know, everything was about, you know, the image. I guess is the word I'm looking for. But then when that coach left, another coach came in, and his recruiting technique was totally opposite. When he would bring recruits in, he would take them out to the practice field in the beginning of the season when these guys are working out in the sun, in the hot. They're running lap after lap. They've got them doing, you know, burpees in over in, and they're running through the pads. And you see guys that are just literally drenched with sweat. You've got guys over on the side of the track that are barfing their guts up. And he is showing them what it takes to get to that stadium. He is showing them what it takes to get to that trophy. And see, that's the problem. And we're guilty of it too. We talk about numbers. Well, wow, you could write $5,000 a week or $10,000 a week or $40,000 a week. And don't get me wrong, that is all possible here. But the problem is that takes 2 days. You know, in the football lingo, 2 days. You know, working out in the morning, working out at night. In our game, that takes 2 days, and that takes, you know, jumping on the phone Friday afternoon, Friday evening, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon. That takes putting in the effort to get to that level where you're earning. And, you know, it's interesting that, you know, even though that coach is showing people, you know, showing those recruits, you know, just all the hell that they're going to have to go through, he had people signing up for that program. They're like, yeah, I want to be a part of that, because they got it. They understood what they were have to go through to reach that level of champion. And, you know, there's no way around it in this business, guys. If you want to win at a high level, you have to be able to put the time and the effort and the work in. And it's not always pretty. You know, I use the example, and you've probably heard me say this before. You know, right now we've got the Final Four going on. And, you know, here in a couple of weeks, we're going to see the final game of this 2-week process. And, you know, somebody's going to take a winning shot. And, you know, everybody in the stadium, everybody watching on TV, the sports announcers, everybody is going to be cheering and part of that winning shot. And they're all going to be sharing in the glory. But the problem is nobody was there 9 months ago when that same player who took that winning shot was on a court by himself, taking shot after shot after shot with nobody watching, with nobody cheering him on. He was putting in the work to get to that point. And guys, that's what it takes. If you want to get from 80 to 20, if you want to get out of that Pareto's principle that says 20% of the people do 80% of the work, 80% of the people do 20% of the work. If you want to move from 80 to 20, it takes work in diving in and doing that. You know, I'm reading a book right now, and I recommend this. It's called Master Your Mind, Counterintuitive Strategies to Refocus and Reshape. I think that my iPad cuts off here. I think it's Reshape Your Thinking. But Master Your Mind, Counterintuitive Strategies. If you Google that, you'll find it. I don't have the author here, but I'll post that up on Greet Me Later. But one of the things that I highlighted in the book is a statement, and actually I've heard this statement at conference before, but it can't be said too much. Every single thing that creates progress for you is either uncomfortable, risky, or both. First example they give is you want to grow your business, you'll have to do some prospecting, which is uncomfortable and emotionally risky. And I think that's the biggest reason why we have people who jump on the phones on a Friday afternoon and a Saturday morning and make 50 dials. You know, when our prescription says you need to make at least 250 dials to get to where you need to go. Because they may have talked to somebody who wasn't friendly, who hung up the phone on them or said, I don't remember doing this, I don't want to talk to you. And that emotionally risky comes in and they quit on themselves. They give up. And it's kind of funny as I was looking over notes this morning, something that I had highlighted caught my attention at the bottom of the page. It's a statement: stuck is the byproduct of safe. If you're stuck, it's because you're trying to stay safe. And your brain has three major default settings, the book goes on to say. The tendency, number one, the tendency to overemphasize negative inputs. So, any negative information you hear all of a sudden gets blown up and it's worse than it really is. Number two, the tendency to easily be consumed with urgent events. In other words, not prioritizing, picking up on, just running around with your hair on fire, doing things, feeling like you're busy and actually not accomplishing anything. And then number three, and this is huge, the constant craving for safety over progress. These three things will get in the way of your progress. And the author asked, be honest, can you recognize these default settings showing up in your life? We hope you can, because recognition and awareness are always the first steps in making an upgrade. You can't escape from a prison that you don't know you're in. And so, it's kind of that, it's kind of the old, what is it, the 12-step program is you got to first admit you got a problem. Okay. One of the things that I think, I was in a sales training years ago. The trainer was Lee DuBois, and he made a statement. It's probably the only thing I remember from the training, quite honestly, but I think it's very impactful training. And I think it's something that, and I know it's something that if you implement in your business, it will help you make that shift. And that is, we have a tendency to focus on the big goal. And don't get me wrong, we got to have the big goal. We got to know where we're going. We got to have the money goals, the accomplishment goals. We do have to understand where we're heading. But the problem is when we get into these times where we're grinding it out, we're making the phone calls, we're doing the work, we have a tendency to focus on the big goal and say, well, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not doing anything. I'm not accomplishing what I want to accomplish. And Lee DuBois had a great take on sales, and he was a sales trainer. He said, here's the problem with most salespeople is they focus too much on those big goals and they don't focus on their daily activities. Meaning, if you have a goal that my goal is to make 100 dials today and talk to 10 people and go out and do 3 presentations, if you accomplish that, he said, close your book, put down your phone, go home, and claim victory, because you did what you needed. That is success. You did what you needed to do. Forget the numbers. Forget the numbers. If you didn't write anything, don't worry about that, because if you do that every day and you accomplish your daily goals, the numbers will be there. And we lose sight of that too many times. We say, well, gosh, I went out and I got porched on 2 appointments and I had 2 people call and cancel. And, my day basically blew up. This is a lost cause. But instead of just saying, well, tomorrow I've got 3 more appointments or 5 more appointments, or I'm going to jump on the phone tonight and I'm going to replace those appointments I lost. And that's the difference, guys, between the 20 and the 80. Is it somebody that says, you know what, I'm going to go out, I'm going to do the activity I need to do today. Obviously I want the results to happen, but if they don't happen like I expect them to do, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go out, I'm going to do it again tomorrow. So, there's a recipe that the authors in this book, Master Your Mind, give, recipe for breakthrough. It says, when it comes to achieving a mental and therefore results breakthrough, there are three key components that are required. These are: number one, get help; number two, get invested; number three, get away. Get help, get invested, get away. And I highlighted that because that is our system. That is our system, guys. We get help. You have mentors in this business. You have your recruiter that brought you in. You have the person above them. You have the person above them. We all want your success for you more than you want it for yourself. And we want to be there to help you achieve that. We also have other people who want your success that don't even know you and aren't even involved in your business. And we know that because we have weekly training calls, not just this call, but on Monday and Wednesday, we have national training calls. And these are always led by the top people in the company. People are performing at a very high level that are sharing exactly what they do in the business and how they do that. And you got to plug into that. But we also go a step beyond that. And you can get help by going to our training events. We just had a series of winter tours. Every one of even though it's the same message every winter tour I go to, I always take away something new. One little nugget that makes a difference in my business. And it's amazing. Again, most of those winter tours were all about recruiting. So it was the same message as the company message. And again, I know all that. But there's always one little thing that somebody gets up in front of the room and shares that makes a difference in my business. So I go to those meetings. Any of them I can attend. Most importantly, coming up here in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, conference, national conference, April 16th and 17th. The biggest and the best place that you can get help is at that event. Guys, I know we push it hard. I know we sell it hard, but it's because those of us who've been there and those of us who built businesses and have written business know what an impact that event will have on your business. In fact, it is such a huge impact. It is literally the difference between you winning and you failing in this business. And that's not an overstatement. In fact, I just came off a leaders call where we were breaking down the numbers. We have the stat that, 85% who don't attend won't be here than 6 months later. Beyond that, we have another stat that now says 93% who are not at conference won't even write business in that next 6 months. It is that impactful, and that's why we push it. So if you want to get help, you get to that event. And that includes the next two statements: get invested and get away. These authors are kind of talking about their business coaches, so they kind of have their way of getting invested and getting away. But I think it's very pertinent to what we're doing. And again, what we're doing with conference is you're investing in yourself and you're getting away from the daily grind. And I was having a conversation with Jeremiah Dolan at the beginning of the week, and I made the comment to him that I feel like every conference that I've come into, and I've been in this business 3 years, and been at 7 or 8 conferences now. But every one of them, I feel like I'm kind of running out of gas about the time I hit conference. Mentally, emotionally, I'm losing energy. And these events are so key in recharging your batteries, plugging into other people who are winning at a high level, getting those tips and tools to walk out of that event and now take your business from where you may already be performing at a really good level or a really high level and taking it to an elite level. Or maybe you're just starting in the business and you're like, I want to know everything about this business. Guys, you're going to learn everything literally about this business at that event. So that's what I want to end with is conferences coming up. Most of you on this call I'm seeing are already engaged or signed up for that. But I know there are some that are kind of sitting on the fence. And I was talking with my buddy from State Farm, and again, they got a little bit different system, but it's interesting. Somebody that's not even in our system made a statement yesterday that was so prescient and so pertinent to our scenario. Because I said, I don't understand why somebody wouldn't invest, $179 for the ticket, and then the travel cost to go to this event, when they want to earn a 6 or 7 figure income. It's such a minimal investment to earn big money. And he looked at me and he said, Chris, I think I can answer that for you. He said, I honestly, he said, in looking at what you're talking about and what that event does, and I actually wrote his quote down. He said, somebody who wouldn't invest in themselves, they don't trust themselves enough to follow through on what they learn or to implement what they learn. It's a self-esteem, it's a self-image issue. We're telling, we've got this system, and it's been proven, guys, it's been in place 10 years. It wins every time it's used. But it's not about the system. We've got people who won't invest in it because they won't invest in themselves, because they're afraid if they do, they know they either won't go out and do it or they won't execute it. And that's sad, because again, that's somebody that is permanently locked and fixed in that 80% mindset. And really all it takes, guys, even if you're not confident that that's going to happen, that you can break out of the 80 into the 20, just take a leap of faith, get to conference. We'll get you the tools to take that step from the 80 to the 20. Guys, that's what I had to share with you this morning. Appreciate everybody being on the call. Do plug into your mentor and your upline. We've still got a few tickets left for conference. We'll find a way to get you there. Again, if you need some cost reduction help, we can help with that. We've got, again, people who are wanting to share rooms. It might even, hey, every year we have people who are driving from, the Midwest, driving out there, and it may be where we can even get a ride share for you. So, don't let your mental barriers get in the way of you having the success and the growth that you want to have. So, guys, appreciate everybody being on this morning. Again, one more week of turn-in for March. So, it's been a 5-week turn-in. We've had a solid month, but we get a bonus week to go ahead and really pump the numbers up, give yourself a chance to make sure that you're hitting those promotion numbers for your next level promotion. So, guys, appreciate everybody being on. We'll go ahead and close out the meeting. Appreciate all you jumping on the call. Do connect with your upline. Get ready to jump on the phones this weekend. Set up a big final week. Let's push hard into conference and finish out strong. Guys, appreciate it. See you all.